I had a purpose before everybody had an opinion.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out.
You want Philly?
Chase Utley, you are the man.
You come out backyard and you try to start something, you always get your butt kicked.
The prayers have been answered.
How about those Eagles, baby?
And Rio Muto can run for days.
Can you feel what's about to happen on this field, man?
A perfect game. Roy Halladay has thrown the second perfect game in Philadelphia Phillies history.
All right, we are back with another episode of Philly Talk. I've really questioned how I wanted to do this video, especially like with what are the things I wanted to bring up, how did I want to react, and I've just been kind of a bit clueless in a sense. So obviously the big talking point, especially of today as the news drops before I started recording this episode, Jason Kelce has been telling his teammates and coaches that he is going to retire. I could have so many unkind things to say to the coaching staff for wasting Jason Kelce's final year, wasting the year of so many talents on this team. Like it's just frustrating to me the way things went this season, and it's just frustrating overall to think like that's Jason Kelce's final game at the Link. That's Jason Kelce's final game as an Eagle. That's the final game of his career. And obviously things could change. He could maybe decide he doesn't want to retire, but as it stands right now, it's just disappointing that that's the way things go for him. It's just so frustrating with this team, and I think the most frustrating part, again, a point we've talked about on previous episodes, and that is people trying to lessen the problems of other teams in a sense. I get it. There are worse teams in the NFL. There are teams in worse situations, but that doesn't that doesn't mean that the good teams can't also have issues of their own. That doesn't mean that the good teams can't have coaching issues, player issues, talent issues. Like it's kind of weird to me that that's the way people sort of play things, because a lot of people have been like, oh, the Eagles don't have it bad. Their coach just brought them to a season where they were 11-6 or something like that. What's the other thing I've been seeing people say? They've been talking about, your play calling isn't that bad or whatever. Like these teams have it worse. Like I've seen people bring up the Steelers offense and a couple other like teams' offenses or defenses, and it's like, just because those teams are bad doesn't mean that we don't also have issues of our own that are bad. And another thing is, like, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, you guys are just fake pessimists trying to get pity, or like it's baffling to me, because it's like, why do you think, like, I can get some people being fake pessimists, but a lot of us are just calling what we see when we're watching the actual games. You have no problem with other analysts and other like content creators when they talk about the Eagles in a negative light, but when their own fans do, it's like you look at it as a bad thing. Like, do you think fans should just have this sort of unconditional like love with their team, where they love them no matter what? Like, obviously there's loving your team through the bad times and sticking through as a fan and being loyal, but that doesn't mean you can't offer judgment and criticism to your team when they're bad. That's more of a fake fan if you're just like, oh no, everything's fine, they don't need to change much, they can just stay the way they are. It's like, no, you're gonna criticize your team when they're doing bad. You're gonna call out the things that you see when you're watching the game. Especially if you've been watching throughout this season, you have seen me call out so much from this Eagles team, so much to the point that I was telling my dad, I was like, other than the Bucs game, the first one, the Rams game and the Miami game, there wasn't really a game this season that I was happy with, where I wasn't saying that there was just something that irked me about this game, whether it was the fact that the offense didn't play well or the defense didn't play well or they let the other team come back into the game because they were taking their foot off the gas or they were starting too late. It was like there was so much frustration with this team, so much to the point that like maybe around the second or like the game we lost to Dallas, was kind of the point where you saw me like kind of give up on this season, in the sense where I was just like, this isn't a team that's going to win. Like the Seattle loss was definitely the nail in the coffin for me, but it's like so many people were like I forgot already what some people were saying, but it's like a lot of us saw this coming. Like the only reason you saw a lot of us saying that we thought the Eagles were going to win is because we were trying to remain hopeful, and not be completely negative. But deep down in our hearts, a lot of us already knew we're probably going to lose this game. Like, that's why you saw me say like, oh, I think they can win this, but it wouldn't surprise me if they'd lose it. Because it's like, it's not even just a thing of like trying to like not take a side so that the prediction doesn't end up wrong. It's just like, I kind of just knew. I was like, they could easily lose this because look at the way they've been playing, It's just very disappointing, and it's sad that like we were already giving up on a season, like when there was still like weeks to go, and it really just comes down to so many things, like Jalen Hurts' performance yesterday was not that great, Obviously the coaching is still not the best, and the play calling was just terrible. We were still doing those screens. We weren't throwing in the middle. We'd rather have two guys be in the same area towards the sideline for a catch than target the wide open middle. The defense for the longest time were actually doing pretty good. Like, you saw them getting a ton of sacks, you saw them getting stops, but of course the offense couldn't do nothing. And then after that point, the defense just started collapsing. Very frustrating game, very frustrating season. And you just expect a lot of change. You expect a lot of change on the defensive side of things. You expect a lot of change in the coaching, hopefully. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're not going to fire Nick Sirianni, this and that. And it's just like, you fired Andy Reid for less. You fired Doug Peterson for less. You even fired Chip Kelly for less, And I'm one of the biggest, like people that just like dislike Chip Kelly and have like this big sort of like dislike for him and his time here, but they even fired him for less. It doesn't matter if you have a winning season or not, look at what's happening with the Cowboys, all these winning seasons, and what, like what do they have to show for it, and it should be the same thing for us, where it's like, yeah, we had an 11-6 season, but what do we have to show for it? Collapse in the final like 7 games pretty much, or like 6 games really, that we saw a huge collapse from the team, and a wild card exit. The coaching needs a huge overhaul. Brian Johnson needs to be gone, Sean Desai, Matt Patricia, even Nick Sirianni. Like the only one who should stay from this coaching staff is obviously Jeff Stoutland because of the work he does with the offensive line, but pretty much everyone else, gotta get him out. And there's so many other options out there. And the biggest thing to me is, yeah, you could say, oh, let's give Sirianni another chance with new coordinators. Let's say you go out there and get a really great offensive coordinator who fixes the offense, a really good defensive coordinator who gets the defense in shape. Okay, what are you going to do the season after when they get poached for head coaching jobs? And you're right back to where we are right now. If Sirianni has to rely on coordinators that much to be a good coach, to have a good team, I don't think he deserves to be head coach then. If he has to rely that heavily on his coordinators, that when his coordinators get poached, this team collapses in on itself, So I expect a complete overhaul as far as the defense. Like I was saying, so many guys got to go. James Bradbury got to go. I don't think Avonte Maddox necessarily has to go because of the whole injury situation that happened, but like James Bradbury for sure has to go. The linebackers definitely have to go, and they're all gone after this season. Like, they were only on 1-year deals pretty much. So like Shaq Leonard, who's the other one? Nicholas Morrow and Zach Cunningham. They're all pretty much gone. Maybe keep around Zach Cunningham. I don't know. He wasn't really healthy, so I don't know if that's a guy you want to keep around. I don't really know what's gonna happen with Slay. Defensive line, I don't think there's really a lot of changes you need to make. Obviously, the biggest thing is please stop dropping Hassan Reddick back into coverage. Find a defensive coordinator who's actually going to utilize him in his best abilities, which is rushing the passer. Offensive wise, I think you get a third receiver in the draft, because of the fact that like you saw what happened when AJ was gone. And of course, in this game, it only got worse when Julio Jones got knocked out of the game. After that, I just don't really know what more this team will do. The biggest thing is obviously coaching, because it's like this is a very talented team, and a whole year of theirs was wasted. It's just frustrating to watch. I hope a lot of change comes from this team, and all you can do is just now look forward. This season is behind us. Gotta look forward towards the draft, towards free agency, hoping to fix some of this mess, hoping to fix a lot of the issues we saw, and just hope that the next season is better. But there's gonna be a lot of people that you're looking at, in a sense, that are like the hot seat, like looking at a couple guys and being like, hey man, if it doesn't get better, we might have to start looking elsewhere. But with that being said, that closes out the final Eagles game of the year. That now closes out Philly talk for the most part. I don't know what I'm going to do from here. I don't really know if I want to cover the playoffs. I mean, if I do, it won't be under the Philly Talk brand, obviously, because it's not Philly Talk. I could obviously just talk about it in its own sort of things, like talking about next week's divisionals. But I don't really know, because the Phillies haven't been making much noise in free agency, and spring training doesn't obviously start till like late February, early March. And even then, what's there really to talk about in spring training times, other than like if an injury happens, or just some of the things you're seeing with the team. But like, I don't know. And then obviously the obvious answer could be basketball, but I don't really keep up with it that much, but who knows, maybe. So don't know yet. Just stay tuned. You might see some other things from this channel. Obviously, I will commit to this week. You will get the year recap of wrestling. I know I've been really late on that. I mean, we're already halfway through January and I haven't gotten it out yet. So that will be coming out this week. I just don't know for sure if it's tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. It's just going to be one of those days. I'm going to commit to recording it all and editing it all, So it'll likely be Thursday, but I can't commit to a day. I just know for sure this week I'm going to try my best to get it out. And with that being said, thank you all for joining throughout the duration of this season. If you've been tuning in, whether it was for the Phillies or the Eagles, thank you all for listening to this in its entirety. And I'll probably be back for the draft and free agent news. Obviously when the Philly season starts up, I'll be back with my my Philly talk segments about that. But until then, thank you all for joining for Philly Talk, the 2023-2024 season. Look forward to the upcoming seasons and just hoping for a ton of change. Oh, and real quickly, just to end off the season, because, obviously a lot of people will be like, the Eagles lost, you can't talk this and that. It doesn't matter when it comes to division rivals. Cowboys, how are you going to lose to the 7th seed? How are you going to let the 7th seed win for the first time since the playoffs, the new playoff bracket started, I'm pretty sure? How are you going to lose? How are you going to let Green Bay embarrass you like that? It's okay, though. The Yankees season is starting soon, so that's what they'll have to look forward to, especially, since the Lakers aren't doing too good and Nick Saban just retired, so they can't root for Alabama no more.